Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to YouTube, and first of all, I'm back. Took a 2-month hiatus from the game because of some real-life issues. Anyways, that's besides the point. Today we're going to be taking a look at a game I had in the Hms Minotaur, the Tier 10 Royal Navy light cruiser. I consider this ship to be fairly well balanced for a Tier 10, contrary to some of the recent releases we've had, like Cristoforo Colombo, the upcoming Nakimov, so on and so forth. Here I'm running a smoke build with normal concealment. Normally I would be running a double rudder radar build. However, I've sort of fallen out of favor with that because it's been a bit of a problem spot for me. Just before we proceed, I'm just going to turn down the volume really quickly so that the audio overlap still doesn't occur. Still have that problem because I haven't recorded in a while. Anyways, looking at the team lineup, we have 4 battleships, 5 cruisers, and 3 destroyers per team. You can't really consider the Elbing a destroyer though, so move on from that. Neither can be considered the Harugumo or the Marsala to be destroyers. But that's besides the point. Anyways, B-cap's already contested. Gearing's already moving in. Unspotted, and the Moskva immediately radars. Very good job from him. I really appreciate that when cruiser radars right off the bat. And there's the Shimakaze. And of course, yeah, he's radared. Clearly doesn't understand that he's being radared, and he smokes up. He knows that I'm here, and smart cookie. He, to his credit, he smokes up and turns tail to mitigate the damage. I deal about 14,000 damage to him out of all that. So now that the Shimakaze has been driven out of the cap, my objective here is to get into B, and with the assistance of the Gearing, the Napoli, and the Moskva, and whatever's behind us, we have a Kurfürst Worcester in Vermont. My goal is to exert control over this cap. Make sure that nobody can get in and overrun our team from the other side of the map. So if we have a push coming in from A, we can't be overrun from there because I'm in the way. If the push comes from C, it can't be overrun because I'm in the way. So I'm not launching torpedoes, assuming that the Kremlin's going to come moving forward. I have RDF on this build, so I have a rough idea of where he'll be coming from. Of course, I don't want to really take my chances. Minotaur is, of course, a very squishy light cruiser. She has 43,300 health, she has a super heal, but her citadel is only 101mm thick. Just taking shots over the island of the Kurfürst. As I was saying though, she's extremely thin, very squishy, very high water citadel. If you get looked at by anything, you're going to get blown up. And there's the Shimakaze again, presumably not realizing that there's 3 ships in the cap, and the Worcester besides. Anyways, now that the Kremlin's popped up, he's focused on the Napoli, because Napoli was temporarily spotted. Actually, Napoli is now firing from smoke. So I immediately turn my guns and I start focusing on the Kremlin, being careful not to run out of the Gearing smoke. I do have my own smoke, but I don't want to waste it right now, because if I waste my own smoke, that means I have 1 less smoke charge to use later when I actually need it. Kremlin's blind firing me, although he completely missed this one. Actually, no, he didn't. He got 1 overpen on my stern. That's about it. So now I'm just hacking at the Kremlin, and you can see the problem here if you look at where I'm how many shell hits I'm getting in compared to ricochets and shatters. Minotaur only has armor piercing. Yes, it's improved armor piercing. But the problem with that is that regardless of whether it's improved or not, it's still armor piercing. So that means you ricochet off of a very well angled target, like say a Kremlin, bow in Kremlin, for example. Now of course I choose to use my own smoke because I realize the Kremlin's turning full broadside. He's turning to get out of here, and I'm like, now hang on, I can easily farm this guy down from smoke. The reason why I chose to pop my smoke screen, of course, is because if I try to open water in the Minotaur, I'm going to be forced to move, and that's going to put me out of position to get crossfired by most of the ships here on the, 1-2 line. You have Kurfürst, Des Moines, Minotaur, another Kurfürst, Ishina, Grozovoy. Grozo isn't that too much of a problem because he's dealing with the Marceau. But those other ships are definitely a problem. Now, of course, that's when I noticed the Colbert, and I decided, you know what, instead of focusing an angled Kremlin, I'm not going to get too much damage in, let's focus the Colbert down. Because that's where I'll get the most bang for my buck. Colbert is also a very squishy and very thin, cruiser, like the Minotaur, but it's even thinner, and it's extremely vulnerable to getting slapped in by Minotaur's high explosive armor piercing. So I start focusing the Kremlin again, now that he's still angled, because Colbert disappeared, and that's when the Colbert pops up again. However, I choose to continue focusing fire on the Kremlin because, of course, I want to bring him down as quickly as possible. Kremlin, no matter what people say about it, is still a very tanky and very durable threat. Eliminating him quickly is possibly one of the best options you can choose in a game. Yes, the Colbert is still there, but behind an island, he's not too much of a threat, because he can only target what he can see. Anyways, I'm going for single-fire torpedoes here, going with the assumption that the Grozer Kurfürst is going to keep pushing in the same direction that he is. Of course, these torpedoes end up missing, I believe. Yeah, these torpedoes end up missing from my recollection, because probably the Kurfürst probably had a Hydra running. That's the only logical explanation. Anyways, now I'm heading over to this side of the map, the sea cap. Because, first of all, I want to deal with this Colbert. He's been a bit annoying staying behind this island. And second, I want to deal with the Goliath and the Yamato as well. So I start taking some open shots at the Yamato from behind the islands. Minotaur has very poor ballistic arcs, which mean that you have to lead over long distance quite a lot. But, on the other hand, you can lob shells over islands. Of course, this is a point where I feel like I made a bit of a mistake. I should have just stayed behind the island and farmed the Yamato down, and then waited for the Colbert to pop out and then take him out. Unfortunately, I got greedy because I wanted the Yamato, so I decided to go around the island. That puts me out of position to deal with the Colbert. Which is a bit of a problem because our Worcester seems to be having a little bit of trouble dealing with, any ship in general, never mind a Colbert. So, yeah, this was a bit of a mistake on my part. I'm hoping that I can use Minotaur's acceleration and speed to get around the corner to hopefully intercept the Colbert before he kills the Worcester. Of course, and then we see this happen. Let's give it a second. And there we go. The Worcester and the Colbert decide to go ramming. And that's a problem, because not only is that an equal ship trade, which we didn't want, we want to be able to, when you're playing the game, you want to be, trading. You want to be trading in such a manner that your opponents don't really, you're putting your opponent down on ships, not giving them a chance to come back. So, again, that was my fault. I should have gone around the islands. Anyways, now the Yamato's out in the open. I decided to take this chance to farm him. But I decided instead to go for the Goliath first, or take a shot at the Goliath, because he's full broadsiding. And now I take my shots at the Yamato, and this is where you really get to see the Minotaur in action. Minotaur has, of course, the highest DPM of all Tech Tree Tier 10 cruisers, 600,000 base AP DPM. You can buff it to 681,000 AP DPM with main battery modification 3, and top grade gunner brings it up to over 700,000. And of course, you can really see how much damage stacks up on that Yamato. You can't see him right now because he's gone stealth. But if you land consistent good volleys, you can easily chip down a Yamato, any battleship really, at appropriate ranges. Courtesy, of course, of the Minotaur's improved auto bounce angles. Now the Yamato's angling away, and he appears to be saturated, so I'm not doing as much damage to him as I can. And of course, this is where I make another mistake. I assume that the team is going to win, and that's rule number one of playing World of Warships. You never assume that your team will win, because it doesn't matter how hard you play, your team will always manage to throw harder. That's the one thing I've learned playing this game for 2 years now. Anyways, I digress. I'm continuing to focus down the Yamato because I do want him down. Unfortunately, my smoke's about to run out. I've only got 20 seconds left on it, so I have to bail. And my immediate thought process is to head towards the center of the map again, and see if I can assist with dealing with whatever's coming in from the west. The Des Moines, the Minotaur, the Kurfürst, and the Yoshino. And that's when the problems start. The Vermont gets burned down by the Goliath, because presumably he was either firing high explosive or he wasn't aiming. Moskva, and then the Minotaur takes down our allied GK. Then the Moskva takes down the enemy Des Moines, and we're back up to a one-ship advantage. So this is where I noticed the enemy Minotaur is pushing in directly into the Moskva and the Des Moines. And this honestly was a mistake. I feel like the Des Moines should have just followed up with the radar. I don't know what he was doing. Like, took a couple shots at the Minotaur, and this is where I make another mistake. I decide to open water the Yoshino. This was a bad idea because Yoshino has 305mm guns. Yes, they're Japanese, which means that the AP isn't good, but, well, it's good AP, for one thing. Second thing, it overmatches every part of my ship except my main belt. When I can do that, that happens. Lose about 8,500 health. This is the first major amount of health that I've lost in the game so far. So I decide to just talk her up, go stealth. I'm up to 132,000 damage with 7.5 minutes left in this game. And now I have reset my priorities. I have to deal with this Yamato and with the Goliath. Of course, this Yamato is far more stubborn than I imagined. So now I'm launching torpedoes towards him in a hope to bait him towards, coming towards me. I'm hoping he knows that, hey, there's a Minotaur here, easy kill, right? And he comes towards me so that I can farm him down and he runs right into my torpedoes. Minotaur's torpedoes are also another great advantage of this ship. She has 16 torpedoes, 8 per side, with 10 kilometers of range and around 16.7k alpha damage. And they also have the ability to single fire launch. And you can sort of see Minotaur's fast torpedo reload in action here. You can see that I've launched one set, they're halfway through their travel, and it's like 45 seconds left on the reload. Minotaur's Torpedo 2's reload in 96 seconds. That provides me with a pretty solid advantage when it comes to dealing with battleships. Because if you miss one set of torpedoes, you'll have another set of torpedoes ready to go within like 1.5 minutes. And I'm going to need those torpedoes within 1.5 minutes because the Yamato is close to within 7 kilometers of me. Now, I want to be careful here because my smoke firing penalty is 5.4 kilometers. If he gets within that 5.4 kilometers, I'm dead meat. Because a Yamato can delete a Minotaur at any angle. Literally, any angle. So now I'm single firing my torpedoes towards where I know the Yamato is coming, because the Yamato is unlikely to alter course at this distance. And this is of course where I make my second mistake. I left the smoke. Because guess who's waiting? The Goliath. So I switch my attention to the Goliath, poke my heel to mitigate any damage. One torpedo, finish the Yamato off. And this is the other problem. Minotaur gets... of course, I was showing far too much broadside, of course, but the other thing is, Minotaur can also get overmatched by the Goliath. That's another ship I really don't want to deal with, especially when it comes to the armor piercing on that ship. And that's when I noticed another problem. That's the enemy Minotaur. So I turn away enough that I can mitigate some of the damage from him. And this is the point where I realize, yeah, we're up on points, but we've lost the game. Here's the reason why. Both the Marceau, the Des Moines, myself, and the Harugumo are very low on health. The Kurfürst is almost full health. The Goliath probably has a super heal ready to go, and he's at like 40,000. And their Minotaur is positioned straight in the middle of the map. He can catch the Des Moines out. He can wreck the Des Moines, well, with the assistance of the Kurfürst, who's pushing straight into the middle. Goliath is coming around the back to deal with me. And this is where I ultimately make the last mistake that sealed my like mistake in this game. I should have kept running instead of trying to farm out the Kurfürst. But instead I choose to stop and farm the Kurfürst down. So I just have to roll with that, unfortunately. Des Moines finally radars, much to my chagrin. He should have radared far earlier. I leave my smoke because, well, Minotaur torpedoes, of course, have to be careful of that. So that was a waste of a smoke, complete waste. So now I'm thinking I desperately try and get my torpedoes off. And then the Goliath pops. He's got armor piercing in the barrels. I take one Citadel, 14,000 damage. And now I'm just praying, mitigating, mitigate. I get some huge damage chunks into the side of the Goliath before he finishes me. And that's the end of my role in the game. Or is it? Because, wait for it, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 torpedoes into the side of the GK. And that is my personal damage record with 259,000 damage. So, well, that's unfortunately the end of my role in this game. And unfortunately, that's really the end of the game. There's no way we can win this. Marceau could have just run, but we probably wouldn't have won either way. Marceau should have... I mean, if he wants to win, Marceau probably should have just cut here and run for the border. But, well, it's unfortunate is unfortunate, I suppose. We can try our hardest. Sometimes we can't just win. So here's the post-battle results screen. 259,821 damage. This is my new damage record. My previous damage record was in the Neptune with 254,351 damage. That was a win with 7 kills. I might actually make a video on that later. Actually, I can't because the replay is from 0.9.11. Anyways, file results screen. In terms of basic speed, Goliath got nearly over 1,000 more base experience than I did. I complimented him. He played really, really well this match. But you can kind of see most of my team was a bit useless, which is a bit unfortunate. Not going to name any names here, of course. They tried. Damage: 175,000 damage dealt with guns. 84,000 damage dealt with torpedoes. A little bit of damage to enemy ships, to enemy aircraft. 86,000 damage on the Yamato, 72,000 damage on the GK. Yamato was the only ship that I actually sunk. And, well, yeah, it's a bit unfortunate how that ended. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's been a while since I've made one. Yeah, that's all I can really say. Good luck, fair winds, falling seas. Have a good rest of the day. Potato, out.